Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Thanks for being with me here today as we celebrate 3 #1 international bestsellers in just 4 days. That's right, just 4 days, 3 people become #1 international best-selling authors. And we hope that you're going to be one of our next. I just am so excited for all of the amazing things that these people do in the world. I'm so excited to get to be just a tiny small part of helping them do the things in this world that only they can do, making the difference that they make each and every day in this world as they live as a thriving entrepreneur. These are 3 amazing books. You're going to see some diversity between the books. You're going to see some similarities between them. And in every one of the cases, you're going to see them bring out to the world that amazingness that is them and doing the thing that they need to do so that they can live every day of their lives as a thriving entrepreneur. And I want that to be inspiring to you so that you will live every day of your life as a thriving entrepreneur. I am a marketing company. I'm here to help you take that book that you had, that you dreamed of all the cool things you were going to do with it, and help it be the thing that it was always meant for you, always meant it to be in this world as you live and you love and you thrive. So with that, let's jump in to our first guest on Thriving Entrepreneur. Join me in welcoming MK Lynn. Hey MK, how you doing today?
I'm fabulous. Hi, I'm fabulous, excited, and it's a great day to be alive.
So glad to have you here with us. First off, tell us all a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Well, here's the story. I grew up in a business family, and no kid wants to work for their family all their lives. So when I was 19, Detroit police submitted an ad across all the big cities, and they wanted women to apply for the police department. I'm like, oh, I'm 19. I can do that. And so I applied, and this, that, and the other. I got hired, and oh my God. I tell people I'm still not over it. It was quite, something, but I'm thankful for the experience. But along the way, I learned so many valuable lessons, and that's what, led me to the book. I didn't want people to make the same dumb mistakes that I made. And so I wanted my life to be kind of a cheat sheet, if folks choose to use it, for all what not to do and how to end up making yourself successful. So for me in the world, I'm a teacher, and I use that skill to go over all my crazy stories. And let me tell you, I have a few. And that's how I show up. I'm a teacher. I didn't learn stuff when I should have. I've learned it now, and I want to keep you from doing all the dumb stuff I did.
Let's learn how to use the mute button. All right, there we go. So your book is called Carpet Fit for a King. Tell us a little bit about the journey to working in carpet and what the title of the book even means.
Well, here's what happened. I was transferred or relocated to California with another company that recruited me away from another company. I had already left the police department and working as a professional in industrial security. And the company that I got moved to, which will remain unnamed, I absolutely could not fit into the culture. I was a Midwest girl from Detroit, and in California, it's a little different. And in California, they work how they want to work. And if you raise your voice or anything, and these were millennial kids, these were kids that felt like they were the stuff. And again, they may have been, but I'm from the Midwest. We work for a living. And I was only asking them to do their jobs. So anytime I had a consultation or a coaching, she's mean, yada, yada, and they would go to HR and all that. And I did it for a couple years, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I probably should have done it because I believe that God brought us to California to kind of, train us up and do this stuff. So this was the plan, but I wasn't seeing it like that because I was so uncomfortable. So I told my husband, hey, you know what? I'm out of here. Let's buy a business, because I had business background and I didn't know just because you can make pies that you can run a pie factory. So I'm like, I'm good at this. So we got somebody to help us find businesses and they found a carpet mill. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. The workers were already there. The owner was retiring. He was in his 70s, and he was one of the fathers of custom carpet in Los Angeles. And so I'm new to the market, and I buy the mill, and it's this old broken down place, but they were spinning out the most beautiful custom carpet. And we had, his clients were, I guess I can't mention their names, but they were Hollywood stars and people that could spend, $140,000 on carpet. And I have a story where a guy did that. It was silk. And I said, hey, it's not going to last that long. He said, okay, well, I'll just replace and buy some more. So those were our clients. Well, it was a mess. We were learning. I could run the books and all that stuff. And my husband's, he's a hands-on guy, so he could kind of do the carpet, but it was a tough business and we didn't know how to do it. And the employees, if they got mad, they would just, mess us all up. And 2008, the housing crash came, and all of a sudden our clients were not buying this very expensive carpet. And we were in the red so badly until I couldn't even make any magic anymore. And so we closed. And it was heartbreaking, but I knew from the beginning that God had placed me at this company and I didn't want to learn my lesson. So I ran out of there. And I tell folks I'm a serial quitter. And the nice thing about my husband, and there's a scripture that says iron sharpens iron, is he stopped me from being such a quitter. Anything that got hard, I would say, I don't want to do this anymore. And I did that with the police department. But with this particular thing, he didn't say no to me. He let me go on because he thinks I can pull rabbits out of hats. And I am good as far as the books go for business. But it was terrible. And we were without jobs, without income. But again, God provided. We were educated, we could get jobs. So I ended up getting a job at a university as an adjunct professor in, by the way, criminal justice. And I learned a lot of valuable things there with the bills and all the stuff. We had just under $1 million that we owed. But I had a mentor who was a businesswoman, and she told me, hey, you pay this off, you try to make deals, you do all that. But, God didn't pay off the $1 million. He said, you do something it wasn't my plan. This is what's going to happen. You're going to be responsible for this choice. And we were. We didn't file bankruptcy. We didn't do any of that because that's not how God works. And we worked it out and, got out of the big mess and ended up, landing at other companies. So a part of that, I need all of the education that I got in 25 years, I needed because, I grew up in a middle-class background. My dad's a business owner. We're coddled, spoiled children, so we don't know anything about the world. You just go to that money tree and pick that money off. But I learned. And I want people to know, people look at me now, oh, you're so successful. Listen, it took a lot of one more stroke to keep going. And it was difficult. And you're going to have to walk through some stuff. You're going to have to learn some stuff. And you're going to have to use your gifts and talents to make this thing work. So that's a long answer. You can't ask me questions, but see, first I got to get on the runway, and then I got to take. That's how I talk. So yeah.
Oh no, I love it. So yeah, you were a 20-year overnight success. Absolutely.
Exactly. Oh, the book. So, and in 2008, I started, God laid it upon my heart to start all this self-disclosure, telling myself, use my pain to help people. So I started the book in 2008. And it took me 14 years to finish it because I kept putting it down. 2022, the Holy Spirit placed on my heart, finish that book. And I'm like, how? Oh, okay, let me see what I got. A job, a family, a husband, a kid, church work. So I kept working on it. When I would put it down, I would just have that grabbing in my heart, finish the book. And so that's what made me finish it. I put some stuff in there that my husband Clint probably would not have wanted me to tell, but I'm trying to help people. I'm going to use my life to say, I did this. Don't do it. Don't repeat it. You do this and get you the shortcut of it. So that's how the book came about. Carpet Fit for a King. I chose that title because we did make Carpet Fit for a King. I mean, our carpet was custom. It was from exotic fabrics, all of that kind of stuff. And that was the impetus for me learning. And so that's why I made that the title of the book.
I love that. So there's so many cool things in the book. I'm going to ask you the meanest question I'll ever ask you, I promise. And
I'm a cop. I'm an ex-cop. Go ahead.
What is the number one most favorite thing that you have out of the book today?
That I wrote the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
That would be, you have to be obedient to what God has called you to do. Don't run away and come up with your own plan. That's what I'm trying to describe. Whether it doesn't look like it'll work or not, don't do your plan. Do God's plan. It'll be okay. And that's what I said with the company when I decided to leave. What I thought, and they were doing some things to me that I thought were unfair. And there were a couple folks that were higher levels than me that had done some things to me. And so I'm going to pay them back. Well, after I left, I found out those guys got terminated, 2 of them. And had I just stayed in the place that God had put me, they would have been gone. But see, I had to make them gone myself. So you're gone, I'm gone. That's what's going to happen. I'm gone. I'm not going to let God fix it. I'm a fixer. So that would be the headline. I'm using those experiences to show you that you have to stay on God's plan. That may be in the valley. You may get sick. You may suffer a divorce. You may have some traumatic things happen. But that does not mean that God is not still watching that way. And he's observing how you're responding. And I admit I responded badly. I mean, that's what I did. Not anymore. I've learned my lesson. I'm not trying to go outside of what God has called me to do.
I love that. So before I let you go, give us one piece of advice. There's somebody that's listening that, they're like, okay, I'm there too. I admit it. I went my own way. How do we get ourselves back on track and start doing things God's way?
Here's the deal. You have to be willing to go through the hard places. Don't give up. You may remember the swimmer, Diana Nyad. And Diana, she wanted to get to I believe it's the Canadian Channel, years and years and years. It's a very long story. But she had her last journey, she's beat up, she's whipped up. She did train for it like we should be doing for whatever our gift is. She did train, she did learn, but she was several feet from being able to put her feet on that sand, but she couldn't see it. She was getting sick in the water. It was hard. Her coach was following her in the boat. And every time Diana said, I can't do it, bring me up. And her coach would say, Diana, one more stroke. And she'd do another stroke. And she said, no, I can't. Because she didn't realize that the Canadian side was just a few strokes away. But she kept saying I couldn't. Well, finally, the coach convinced her to keep going. She kept going. And when she looked up, she was on Canadian soil. Why? Kept going. One more stroke. So that's what I would tell my lead. Forgive me for this, but it's emotional for me because I knew that I had to keep going when I didn't want to. And I didn't learn that early on. I did keep quitting. But when I got it, I got it. And no matter what happened, I kept going. So that's what I would say to the listeners. And as you read the book, keep going. If you're in God's plan, it's going to be all right, and you'll see the end if you don't quit.
I love that. The book is called Carpet Fit for a King. It's by M.K. Lynn. You can get it today for free on Amazon, the ebook. A totally amazingly powerful book. The link is both in the description as well as down in the comments. MK, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
What an amazing way to take the things that you do in life, sometimes even the failures that you have in life, and turn them into the biggest successes because you learn and you grow from them. That is an amazing way to be a thriving entrepreneur. And it's also a great premise for your international bestseller. Are you next? Let's take another commercial, and then we'll jump right in back to Thriving Entrepreneur. We'll be right back. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKidd.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we celebrate with you 3 #1 international bestsellers in just 4 days. And we want you to think about what you might write about and the things that you do in this world so that you potentially could be the next thriving entrepreneur that has an amazing book to share, but also so that you can bring that thing that's inside of you out into the world and make the difference in this world that you were born, created, and made to make. I'm so glad that you're here with us. And with that said, let's jump right into our next guest here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Join me in welcoming Keith J. Weber. Hey, Keith, how you doing today?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
I am doing really good. Today we're talking about your book 3 of the Sean Wynn thriller series. It's called Nogales Pass. I hope I said that right.
Yep, you did.
And like you said, it's book 3 of the series. But before we jump right into the series, tell us just a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Well, I am a retired financial services pro. Used to be a certified financial planner and worked in brokerage and that kind of stuff, and retired from that a few years ago, and kind of went back to my collegiate love, which was writing fiction, and I've just been having a great time doing it in the last few years. It's been great.
And we're going to give people an opportunity later on this month to also get the other books after they totally fall in love with the series. But catch us up just a little bit. Where Can we read book 3 all by itself, or do we need to go get the first 2 books before we
No,
read book 3?
each of the books is completely standalone. All that you need to know is in each of the books. So it doesn't matter if you read them in order or out of order. Now, if you do read them in order, you'll find that there are sentences or two in books 2 and 3, that relate back to the earlier books. But there's no key information that you have to have from book 1 to read book 2 or going into book 3. They all stand alone by themselves.
Perfect. Well, give us an overview. Who is Sean Wynn, and why are we excited about what's going on in his life?
Sure. Sean Wynn is a former Marine who, after 8 years in the service, left the service, went to USC on the GI Bill, met a girl, got married, and was living a perfectly normal life until she was hit by a stray bullet, and that was he was suddenly a widower, and that changed him. He in dealing with his grief, he went out, bought himself a Harley Davidson motorcycle, and hit the road for the next 3 years. And really, that's where the Sean Wynn story starts in book 1 of the series called Night Rules. It shows him, on the road and a certain adventure that he has as he's traveling around the country. And then, of course, book 2 is his learning that bullet that killed his wife may not have been a stray bullet, that it may have been intentional. Hence the title of book number 2. And, so he then goes out and takes his vengeance on those who was responsible for his wife's death, leading then to book 3. He's now trying to find his way in the world, and he's asked to go into another situation that allows him to use the skills that he gained and acquired as a Marine Special Forces operative.
Hear me now.
Yeah, there he is. There he's back.
I don't know what it was. We've had a lot of interesting errors over the years, but that's a new one. All right, we are back. I heard everything you were saying about Sean and the stuff that he's going through. So let's talk a little bit about what inspired you originally. I mean, I know you said you love writing, but what inspired you originally to write this series?
Sure. It was really interesting. And so the first book in the series, Night Rules, was the one that was originally inspired. And it came from the fact that my wife actually received a Facebook notification that was forwarded to her about a woman who had traveled this stretch of highway that my wife and I travel a half a dozen times a year, every year for the last 30 years. And this Facebook post was from a woman, warning women who are traveling that alone to be careful, because her experience was that some vehicles, assuming a couple of men in these vehicles, had tried to stop her and pull her over, and she was very much concerned that she was about to be abducted. And so she was warning people, and that was a Facebook post, a warning that my wife received probably 7 or 8 years ago, and it just stuck in the back of my head. Every time we drive that stretch of road, we think about that, and I'm thinking to myself, besides the horror of it actually happening, what a great story. And so that was kind of the genesis of the idea, the seed that said, all right, how can I take this and make a story out of it? And that's where it came from.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah,
Trying to think now from where you live, where Nogales Pass probably is.
Well, Nogales Pass is in the southern border with Mexico, just out, literally on the border between the U.S. and Mexico, a little south of Tucson.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's why it sounds familiar. It's been a long time
Yeah,
since I've been down there, but that's cool. All right.
yeah, yeah.
So, what's your favorite part of this story? I mean, is it just all the action and adventure, or is there something else about the story that really appeals to you?
Well, this particular story, Nogales Pass, um, I really like it because it brings back some history. In the first two books, kind of worked out, who is Sean Wynn and what's his background. But now we start to see him move forward. We do talk about character arcs and those kinds of things in stories, and when you have a series character like this, the story arc is much, or the character arc is much flatter, if you will. I mean, James Bond or Jack Reacher, they are the same people at the end of the story as they were at the beginning of the story. But with Sean Wynn, with Nogales Pass, and what had happened in the first two books, I was able to develop him and actually show him developing and evolving a little bit as a person throughout this. Now, for those action adventure thriller readers out there, don't get too excited. It's not a big character arc. There's still lots of gunfights, explosions, and those kinds of things that action adventure and thriller readers are looking for. That's what this book is chock full of.
Oh, I love it. So, when you think about the things you've done so far with the book, is this going to be the end of this particular series and you'll move on to another character, or are you going to do more with Sean?
I'm definitely going to do more with Sean, working on outlining book number 4 as we speak, and I hope to release it late next year.
Is he going to end up being like Dirk in Clive Cussler's books where, eventually he'll be so old you'll have to have his son be, Dirk Pitt Jr. so that you can just keep going with it?
It's funny you mention that because I know Dirk Cussler. I was just at a conference with him a few weeks ago in Las Vegas, and I don't think so. While it's taking me, probably let's call it 3 years in real life for me to get the 3 Sean Wynn books out there. In Sean Wynn world, only 1 year has passed. So I'm going to slow his aging process down a lot. I hope to stay with Sean Wynn for a while.
Well, that's probably good. I mean, because you can go the other way where you go like where Terry Brooks did, where, every single book you're skipping forward by, hundreds to thousands of years. And you're just like, but I wanted that person back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it is funny. I mean, I've had readers tell me that there are great characters in multiple of these books, and especially a female character in the Nogales Pass book that I've had readers tell me you need to give her own series. So that may be coming. Absolutely, that may be coming.
Well, that'd be awesome too. I mean, we have a mutual friend of ours that one of the books that he did in his series ended up having the female that was the detective in that book. So,
yep,
it's a good idea.
Well, I think that's kind of a thing that's happening, and I get the appeal of it. But I mean, authors are creating universes these days. They're creating communities, within their characters, and not everything has to be about your main character. So I think that's something that a lot of folks are doing, and certainly I'm wide open to it.
So entice us. What is something that is exciting in this book that a person should be looking forward to it so they can go and get it and, of course, read it for free this weekend?
Yeah. Well, it starts with a love interest of Wynn's prior to the time that he ever met his wife, but a woman that he was interested in prior to that. We start off thinking that she's dead, but maybe she's not. Mm-hmm. Maybe she's not. Maybe there's something more to it, and maybe based on the relationships between her and her husband, and the fact that her husband is a Las Vegas crime boss, that only Wynn can be the one to come in and solve a particular problem that has been created by her husband. So,
Wow. All right. Well, the book is called The Gaulless Pass. It is by Keith J. Weber. It is book 3 in the Sean Wynn thriller series, and you can get it this weekend for free. I did put the link both in the description as well as down in the comments. Keith, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
we appreciate it. Thanks you, Steve. Have a good one.
What a fun and entertaining story. Great read. Really a fun way to be able to share the creative things that both happen around you as well as the things that you then become inspired to create and tell stories and make that difference in the world. Great way to entertain people. Great way to express your creativity. So whether you're talking a fiction or nonfiction book, your book absolutely needs to be shared with the world. You were made for a purpose, and you need to share exactly who you are. That is one of the biggest secrets to being a thriving entrepreneur. We'll be right back. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKid.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we celebrate with you the 3 #1 international best-selling books that we helped be a part of. In just 4 days they came out and they were shared with the world and made it to #1 both in the US as well as in multiple countries. We've shared a real life story of a person's business journey. We shared a fiction story with you, and now we want to go into some business related things and some ways to help a specific community be able to deal with the special nuances of the things that they want to do and the things they're going through. I hope that this also inspires you for what kind of things you could write and how you can live as a thriving entrepreneur. Let's jump into our next guest. Join me in welcoming Michael Maskey and Alicia Shields. Hi, how are you two doing tonight?
Doing great, Steve.
Doing well, thank you.
So glad to have you here with us. One at a time, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Go ahead, Michael.
Well, my name is Michael Maskey, and we're here talking about the project that Alicia and I have put together, the Empowered Nurse. And Alicia and I come at it from very, very different angles, and I'm interested to hear Alicia's side of it as well. But I've been working in the healthcare industry for about 20 years now, and I originally got started with working with nurses on the ergonomics and helping to create a safer work environment for the nurse. And as I worked alongside the nurse and like with all of these different ergonomic solutions to different challenges that the nurse had at the bedside, I just realized, I was like, wow, this is an amazing profession. And watching these nurses with the struggles that they had physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, on all these 5 different levels, and walking alongside of them as they did one of the most difficult jobs and one of the, in my opinion, one of the most important jobs in our society is when we are sick, when we're going through some of the worst things in our lives with loved ones, things, with words like cancer attached to them and sickness and getting close to death, that these nurses walk alongside of us. They walk alongside of our families. And so I watched how much they did. And then I also noticed an interesting trend where many of these nurses they didn't pour into themselves. They didn't give to themselves. And so it became this passion of wanting to provide something for them of like, look, we recognize how hard it is what you do in your profession every single day. And like there's some people out there that get how hard that is for you. And here are some things that you can do so that you can continue to do this very important work so that you can stay happy, healthy, and balanced and amidst all that goes on within the profession. And so Alicia and I connected probably almost 10 years ago now, and with the same passion, because Alicia was a chief nursing officer for one of the Indian health hospitals, and we just we connected on that level. And so with that said, Alicia, I'll kind of pass it over to you to kind of share a little bit about you and your background. And because you've been doing, especially here recently, you've been all over the world doing amazing things for the, nursing and healthcare and serving people all around the world.
Yeah, so as they mentioned, I'm Alicia Shields, and I've also been in healthcare for about 20 years. Started out as a medical assistant, then became a nurse. I kind of worked my way up through the system and through education. I got my master's in nursing with an emphasis in health systems leadership from Grand Canyon University. And I started working as the chief nursing officer, worked at a couple different facilities as a CNO. And I would go to meeting after meeting. And one thing that I noticed is these leaders aren't advocating for their nurses, and nurses aren't advocating for themselves. That's why we have so many nurses burning out. And they need strong leaders to be advocating for them. So I really, really made it part of my goal as a chief nursing officer to advocate for my nurses. If they needed the shift covered, lunch covered, I'd go cover lunch for them. But I wanted to be present and be there, and that's so important for nurses on the floor. Um, this book project has been really great because we can talk about, why you got into healthcare in the first place, and taking care of yourself, and as leaders taking care of your team. More recently, I've kind of gone a little different route. I work as a humanitarian now. I'm actually a director of planning and security for a nonprofit called Veterans Without Orders, and we do global humanitarian work with VWO and some other organizations. I've been everywhere from Ukraine, Greece, just got back from Uganda a couple weeks ago, and I when I'm on these operations, most of them I do also work as a nurse. So and working with local nurses. So it's really interesting to see that a lot of the things that we face here as nurses, a lot of the challenges, the globe is facing the same challenges. And we could really come together and try to make some great improvements as a collective group. But it is very interesting, and it makes you realize, okay, it's not just in my small bubble in the US, this is everywhere. So getting people to realize how important reflecting is and taking care of their mind, body, and spirit. And on top of that, I'm now finishing my psychiatric nurse practitioner, which even further leads me to believe it's so important to take care of mind, body, and spirit as a nurse and as any kind of clinician when you're in healthcare, because it's very, very easy to forget to take care of ourselves, because like Michael said, we're pouring into everybody around us. And it's so often that nurses are like, oh, I haven't even gone to the bathroom all day, I haven't eaten, and oh, and you want me to work tomorrow, my only day off? And so many nurses can't say no. So we need to be able to take care of ourselves, take care of each other, and take care of our teams.
So, the empowered nurse, Alicia, what does that mean to you? What does it mean as a nurse for you to really feel empowered?
So to me, feeling empowered is feeling like you can stand up for yourself, stand up for what you believe. Say, no, I can't work that extra shift. Say, hey, this is a patient safety concern. I need somebody to listen to me. And then having leaders around you and a team around you that will back you and support you. That's to me what being empowered is like as a nurse.
And Michael, what kind of resources can we give to nurses to help them feel more empowered?
That's a great question, Steve. And actually, before I go into that, I really wanted to acknowledge Alicia here because um, this project between Alicia and I, this started in Alicia, what, 2018? Is
Long
that,
time
am I
ago.
right? It was a while.
About there.
So it was 20, and her and I were talking about what we wanted to do and create with this for nurses. And like for me, this book is kind of the consummate appreciation of the nurse and the value of the nursing professional, not only in the United States, but because as Alicia was saying, across the world. And part of the reason why this took so long as a project was, hey, Alicia, what's happening? Because when the pandemic kicked off, and Alicia, I would love it if you could share just a little bit of that, because that's
Yeah,
part of the honor for me of doing a project like this along such an amazing person like yourself who's given so much to healthcare. Because when this pandemic kicked off, Alicia was a little hard to get a hold of because the pandemic in COVID would find a hotspot in New York. And where was Alicia Shields? Alicia Shields was in New York. And so if I think Alicia, it's so important for me for you to share a little bit about that,
sure.
and because it just shows how much what you are, but that's oftentimes the mindset of these nurses is going like, where is the worst? I will be there and I will serve and I will give of myself. And so just wanted to kind of tee you off for that, because that for me is part of the amazing part of this whole story, is the reason why this project took so long, which we
Mhm.
were so passionate about and we're so glad to release now, is some of these little obstacles that you and I have encountered along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So when COVID first really happened, I was working full time as a professor. I was teaching, I was the lead for an RN to BSN program, and I had transitioned into academia maybe a year or two previously. And once the pandemic hit, and all of my friends were reusing their N95s and taking care of patients 6, 7 days a week, I was like, I can't be sitting at home and not helping my friends. So I found an organization that was deploying nurses, volunteer nurses, to hotspots, like Michael said. I ended up working at a field hospital in Santa Clara, California. We did 6 nights a week. And then from there, we did about a month there. And then I transitioned to the Navajo Nation, where we worked in an ER at one of the facilities. And I stayed there for quite a while as a volunteer. And then once the pandemic sort of slowed down, I actually stayed on at that facility for another 12 weeks to help them train up some staff and kind of get people ready to uh, carry on what our organization had kind of done there. And then yeah, then the war started in Ukraine and I was there. So it kind of, there were a lot of obstacles around the world along the way that kind of pulled me away from this project.
Well, Lisa,
And
I'm glad to hear that you've just been avoiding conflict, your whole life.
yeah, and I will tell you, because I've worked with these Navajo Nation hospitals, is they were hit probably so much worse than so many other areas. It was, if you couldn't really travel to the Navajo Nation and not find someone who like, if you met someone in that area, they someone close to them had died of COVID.
Mhm.
And it was just it hit so intensely, and it was just like that whole area just was just absolutely brutal. So for Alicia to go right into the heart of it, to go, how can I help? How can I support? That for me was like, that's the heart of the nurse and the nursing professional.
So, Alicia, for the patient listening, that isn't a nurse. And we're all so selfish. We all admit it right up front. When we're in the hospital or the doctor's office, the only person we're thinking about is ourselves and whatever we're dealing with. So we apologize in advance. But what could we, as a person, when we're going through trauma like that, what could we do to help you feel more empowered and to, make your job better?
So I'm really a big proponent of every patient should think they're your only patient. You should never be like, oh, we're really busy. We've got other patients to take care of. Every patient needs to feel like they're your only patient. And how does that happen? Well, we need to be proactive as nurses. So instead of asking the patient, do you need anything else? What else can I get you before I leave the room? So I think as a patient, one of the things that you can do is let us know what you need before we leave the room so that we can take care of everything all at once for you, and then we will go take care of our other patients. I think showing some patience and grace, um, even though I just gave that whole speech about how every patient should be the only patient. We do have nurses burning out at an alarming rate. And that does leave some facilities short staffed, unfortunately. And so being able to show some grace, because this nurse may be on her 14th night working because they don't want to leave the unit short staffed. So telling them thank you, saying I appreciate you. And when they forget to bring your water in, instead of yelling at them, just being like, it's okay, I get it. Just can you get it now? I mean, I think I think so often nurses are also one of the most we deal with violence the most out of most of the other professions. And that's a whole nother topic, but that's something that needs to stop. But each individual patient can play a part in stopping that. Don't yell at nurses. Be compassionate back to the nurses. Compassion fatigue is real. Nurses experience it, and just be patient and show some grace.
Oh, I totally love that. So, Michael, I had asked you before, but let's come back to it. What are some things that can be put in place to help empower nurses more than what exists right now in the current structure?
Well, I think that's where the whole book and this book project of the empowered nurse came in. Was one, Alicia and I went into the academic literature, and uh, so from our opinion, the nursing profession is probably the most stressful profession that you could get into in the United States currently today. If you want to pick a profession, there is no profession that's more stressful than this. And the example I use is physically. It's one of the most demanding physical professions you can go into because people cannot move, they can't boost themselves in bed, they can't toilet themselves. Nurses end up assisting with these, and oftentimes they're putting themselves at risk of injury in doing these physical activities. Mentally, the stressors, the nurses of today are the most educated that they've ever been. All these bachelors, masters, doctorates of nursing, and they're bringing all this high level of knowledge and skill and training to the profession. The emotional stressors, right? It's physical, mental, emotional. Now we're on the emotional stressors of, if I'm sick and I'm in the hospital and I may have gotten the worst diagnosis of my life, this is the worst day of my life emotionally, and who's walking alongside of that pathway with me? It's the nurse. Socially, nurses are communicating with the patient, they're communicating with the family, they're communicating with other nurses, they're communicating with administration, they're communicating with physicians, they're having to shift their communication. And then the last stressor, spiritual. We explore the spiritual stressors of what love, care, compassion, and so physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual. Show me one profession that for 12 consecutive hours hits every single one. There is no other than the nurse. So one, this project goes, hey, if you're a nurse and you're a nursing professional, we get it. This is really, really hard. This is one of the hardest professions there is. So, but you can't enter that lion's den without having some tools behind you, because entering that in a balanced state of mind and entering it with a very centered, balanced state of mind, how do you do that? Right. So it's like, one, we got to recognize what we're going into. And then two, what are some things that we can do to keep ourselves in balance, to ensure that we can do this profession for 5, 10, 20 years, and that we're not burning people out after entering after a year or two. These nurses invest so much in their education, and we don't want to lose them right away because they're so critical to everything that happens in our world of healthcare. So it's kind of this balance of, hey, we recognize what it is you're stepping into. And this book is also going to offer you some strategies and some tools and techniques that you can do so that you can actually go into this and have a great long career doing this amazing profession.
And Steve, if you don't mind, I'd like to touch on something Michael said when he talked about the emotional aspect.
Yeah.
One thing that people don't think about, when the nurse comes in your room, they usually have a smile on their face. They're asking you how you're doing. It doesn't matter what's going on in their personal life or what emotional stressors they have at home or wherever else. They still have to put that face on, and you have to have a really clear head to go and do life-saving work. And I know personally, one of the most exhausting days I ever worked as a nurse, I was taking care of two patients on labor and delivery. One was delivering a baby that was not alive, and the other one was in labor with a live baby. And going from room to room, and the change in emotions. In one room, you had to be completely solemn and somber. They lost their child. But then in the next room you walk into, and all of a sudden you have to be upbeat and happy and cheerful, and just that that pendulum swing of down, up, down, up. It was exhausting. I remember getting off in the morning going, I've never been so tired. And that is a nurse's shift every day. So that's just something to keep in mind when encountering nurses.
I appreciate that. And what I'd love to have you end us off with here, Alicia, is if you could just give some words of empowerment to nurses. And then, Michael, if you can, and you can go in either order with this, but Michael, if you could just kind of give them a thank you for all the work that they do and how much we appreciate them.
Yeah, so as far as some words of empowerment and encouragement, put yourself first. Don't be afraid to take care of yourself. You can't take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself. Self-care is so important. And take care of your coworkers. Ask your coworkers, have you gone to the bathroom yet? Have you eaten something yet? Remind them to go do those simple things that you would think people wouldn't forget to do. And advocate for yourself, advocate for each other. And if you're a nurse leader, advocate for your team. Even if you're advocating to the CEO, to the board, whoever you have to advocate to, do what you need to do to keep your team safe, protected, and to make sure that they can continue providing quality care.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I've worked with Alicia and on many levels for a long time. And when I worked with her and she was the chief nursing officer, Alicia, you fought so hard for your nurses up there. And it was so beautiful to see a leader fighting so hard to ensure that I'm going to make the best work environment possible for the nurses that I'm tasked to lead. And it was so beautiful to watch your passion and intention with that. And it's just, and having worked, for me, having worked with many nurses over 20 years, and seeing how selfless these nurses are and how much they give and pour into other people, and then sometimes they forget to take care of themselves and they burn out, and all of these other things can happen, and you go, you can't give effectively to the other people around you if at least for some moments you don't stop and be a little bit selfish. And for them, it's this very foreign concept of, oh my God, I got to be selfish. No. It's, you need to do that to fill yourself up so you can continue to do this beautiful work that you're doing. And again, for me, I'm very, very honored to deliver this project. I think this book is an amazing work of how we honor the nurse and the nursing professional. And also for me, that my co-author, Alicia, exudes this around the world, from Uganda to Ukraine to the Navajo Nation to hospitals right here in our home state of Arizona. And then to take this, and this is a message that we just want to take and spread throughout all of healthcare.
Well, and I get the wonderful privilege of being the one to get to tell you, congratulations, your book is a #1 bestseller.
Oh,
That's exciting. Yay.
Yeah.
woo!
And I really appreciate you guys being here on the show today. Thanks so much for your time.
All right. Thank you. Well, that's
Thank
great
you.
news. You just made my night.
Heck yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Do share your love and support the next time you're at a hospital or the doctor's office. Nurses do so many incredibly amazing things in the world. And I think a lot of times they're one of those professions that we don't really think of or realize just how much they do. So, let the nurses in your life, or the ones that you come in contact with, let them know how much you appreciate them. And also, I encourage you, you have a story inside of you as well. You have something important that you absolutely need to share with the world. But if you don't share it, if you don't put it out there, nobody else is going to. Nobody can be you. Your story is uniquely yours. And I know I hear it all the time from people, why would anybody want to hear what I have to say? Or hasn't everybody already said this? But the thing about it is that the way that you're going to say it, the you that you are, is going to resonate with the person that you're meant to speak to. And for them, it's going to be life and breath. It's going to bring something to their world that they absolutely need, and make their world all the better because you shared it with them. Because you're uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose, and the world needs you. One of the purposes I absolutely know that you were created to make is the impact that you're supposed to have in this world. And that starts by sharing your story, sharing it verbally with people, sharing it from stages, but also putting it down in writing so that both people that have met you as well as people who have never met you can learn from the things. They can know from what you know how to be able to live better, do better, grow, learn, and love, and more than anything, be a thriving entrepreneur in all that they do. Thanks for celebrating our 3 #1 international bestsellers in just 4 days with us. Thanks for being with us here today. I hope, until we're together again next time, you have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKid.com and schedule a time to talk today.